place. He has his agents all over the place. He knows where you are. He knows what's going on with you. And Saul sent messengers to take David. To do what? To greet him? To bring him glad tidings? To bring a gift, an offering for him? A blessing? No. He sent them to take David. And when they saw the company of prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as appointed over them, the Spirit of God was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. So he ran to the man of God, and they went to Naioth, and the company of prophets were there. And the soldiers, messengers sent from Saul came. And when Samuel standing as an authority over them, and they were there, in the presence of the Lord, that they were prophesying. Essentially, they were speaking out before God. They were quite likely in worship before God. And when the messengers came, the messengers who came to take David, as it were by force, they and all experienced the Spirit of God, and they start prophesying. The men who came to take him, as it were by force, they had to stop what they were doing and then begin to join the prophets and begin to prophesy. God can do that for you. Yeah? It goes on. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers. Saul might have said, but what's wrong with these fellas? I send these soldiers, my messengers, to go and get this man. And they end up with the prophets prophesying, look, you, go get him for me. Send more. And what happened? And they prophesied likewise. And he probably came back. But these fellas go up, and they are prophesying too. And so, what is wrong with these men? You, go. And what happens then? And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. Somewhere around there, this is kind of late in the game, but somewhere around there, Saul should have gotten the memo. Yeah? The message should have gotten through. He should have felt the ding on his phone. You can't touch him there. He should have seen that message coming in. The WhatsApp message should have gotten to him by then. But somehow, he goes all the way 3 sets of messengers deep, and he is still insistent that this man must be taken. He ignores all of that. If it happens to you once, if it happened twice, you're really going to go through it a third time? 3 times he sent messengers. Every single time the same thing happened again and again and again. So Saul probably felt these fellas just no good. Them fellas too weak. You know what? You know the old piece of wisdom? If you want something done right, do it yourself. So Saul decided. Then he also went to Ramah and came to a great well that is in Seku. And he asked and said, where are Samuel and David? And one said, behold, they be at Naioth in Ramah. Now be sure, for Saul to do something like that was far, far, far beneath him as a king. This is not a lackey. This is not the head, the chief steward in the king's house. This is the king. Exactly, himself. The king himself is stooping to the position where he is going himself to lay hold on a man that he wants to kill. That is not becoming of the king. But such is the distress that Saul is in. So intent is the enemy to destroy you that the enemy is not going to leave you. He come at you once, and you're in the presence of God, rejoicing, praising, and he's not able to get you and buffet you. He goes away, and others come, and they go, and they come again, and they go. But the enemy is not going to give up. The enemy is not like some of us. We do it once, we pray once, we pray twice. Apparently it's not for me, so let me leave it alone. The enemy is insistent. The enemy is persistent. He insists that he must. And so Saul himself goes. And they tell him exactly where David and Samuel are. It's like these words in one of the old choruses that I love so much. Go tell the enemy, I am under the rock. Jehovah hides me. I am under the rock. Here's what I read in that song. That little piece there is what I read. I'm not afraid of you. This is where I am. This is my address. I'm not afraid of you. I am underneath. I'm under the rock. I'm good. I'm safe. I'm afraid of you. So Saul knows exactly where David is. And he goes to get him. Because clearly his soldiers are not the man that he is. So he needs to do it himself. So he goes. And he went thither to Neoth Irama. And the Spirit of God was upon him also. And he went on and prophesied until he came to Neoth Irama. The men who came to seize David were themselves seized of the Spirit of God. And now Saul, not learning from that, feels that he's different. He's king, so he's special. So he goes and he himself is seized of the Spirit of God. Doesn't stop there. And he stripped off his clothes also. And he prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore, they say, is Saul also among the prophets? That's what God did. You can't touch him. You cannot touch him. He is in the place where you can see him, but you cannot touch him. There are times and periods in our life when the enemy is going to press and pursue hard after us. But he's not going to be allowed to touch you. You should have been shouting for glory.